coming up on this episode of Free Lunch. Maybe it's not about being the dad I wanted when I was a kid. Maybe it's about being the dad they need right now. All right, see, David gonna make me cut his mic, y'all. David trying to drop extra bars now. I never was the kid that grew up having a ton of whole friends anyway, but the few that I had, I was the first one to have a kid.
But you are right. It's a defense mechanism for not having their dad in the home.
Yeah.
I'm sure all those kids would want their dad in the home if given the opportunity.
Amongst one of the biggest things that gets put on pause when you become a young parent is
finding yourself.
Finding you gets so delayed. Yo, it's your boy Freestyle Gospel, aka The Real Free. Another episode of Free Lunch. And today, y'all, we gonna peel back some of the freeze layers, y'all. I'm gonna let y'all in my business a little bit, but something on my mind nonetheless. And I actually got a really, really dope guest in the building with me today. And this is gonna be relevant to really everybody, really the entire family. I don't care what position you are in the family, mother, father, son, daughter, uncle, nephew. I mean, it's a subject matter, something that kind of ripples through entire families. But it's being a young dad. For those who know a little bit of my story already, I was a teenage parent, and it has definitely impacted me in the trajectory that my life went down or went on to develop and evolve into to present day. So without any further ado, though, I would like to welcome my very special guest and my man, another fellow young parent, or was a young parent. I mean, we grown now, y'all. Get it right. We grown now, handling business. But give it up for my man, David, y'all. Give it up for him. Yes, sir. David, what up, man?
What up, man? Thank you for having me.
Yes, sir. Now, I'm super excited about having either people who I can connect with on some level as an artist or some aspect of real life. So I actually, convinced the bus stop dad at my daughter's bus stop to come in here and do an episode with me one day. Just because we was both dads at the bus stop. That was it.
That's a lot of spit.
It was just another, for me, it comes from just a desire to want to connect with people, and especially people that we cross in passing all the time, but don't ever really stop to think about them any more or further than past that moment we see them, So whether it's maybe you city bus commute, or you drive to work, you stop at the same Dunkin' Donuts and see the same people that stop at the Dunkin' Donuts you stop at. I'm always just intrigued and curious, what do they go and do after this moment that we pass each other?
Yeah, what's their life story?
Yeah, what's the story behind that? So, David is not another artist per se in the way that I am, but in the way in which our paths cross, or where we have a similarity, is that we both were young dads.
Absolutely.
For me, first let me back up. Let me back up and actually share something that I felt was really, really, really crazy to me to even hear from my youngest daughter just 2 days ago. And I was like, you know what? I'm a save this. I started to do a whole nother episode or podcast about just that matter, what she brought to me. But I knew we had our episode coming up, and for me, it was another, kind of anecdotal story that connected with our topic, being young dads. So what happened was my daughter, she comes home from school, and now my daughter is in 7th grade. This particular daughter of mine, I have 3, my youngest, she's 12 years old. She's in 7th grade. And she says the girl, some of her, supposedly, these are supposed to be friends, was like picking on her and saying that something like referring to some of the things she does as childhood father behavior.
And what does that even mean?
Bro, when I heard that just term, I was so confused while I'm in my kitchen while she's telling me this story. And so she's like, yeah, they're all like picking on me saying I have childhood father behaviors. And I'm like, what? What is a childhood father behavior? Oh, well, because they're saying like, I only just do certain stuff because my father's in my life and none of them have their fathers in their life. And I'm like, oh, hell no. Okay, tell me what's this stuff. Tell me what's the stuff that you're doing that to them
Seems
is
odd.
such a problem that they feel the need to like pick on you and refer to these things as childhood father behaviors. Give me an example. She's like, well, for instance, like they all watch such and such TV shows. And I told them on YouTube, I watch, Zendaya or one of the YouTubers my daughter likes, and obviously I don't keep up with these kids showing what they're watching now. So whatever is the name of the show she said her friends watch, I have no idea what it's about, but I can imagine maybe it's probably something they shouldn't be watching at their age, and then maybe they're picking on my kid because her father is present and being aware and kind of filtering what he's letting his daughter watch. And now they're picking on my kid. So I was like, just the wind was like low key taken out of me, bro.
But low key, that's how the generations have sort of changed.
Clearly, but I mean, it looked like it didn't really bother my daughter as much, but I was going to take that moment an opportunity to definitely like reaffirm her and let her know, like, don't you dare let like whatever they're saying make you feel ashamed or bad or somehow less than or whatever because your father is present. Like that like really, really hurt me, bro. Like for her, like I was hurt for her. These kids are obviously they're not my friends. They're not saying these things to me. But I'm like, man, like, I wonder, like, is this really a thing? Like that kids do to other kids? Or like, is this like unique to this group of kids at this school? Like they made this thing up, like the childhood father thing. Like, is this something that these kids made up? Or is this a thing that other people in other states or across America, like, is this a thing that kids now use to pick on other kids with like, ooh, you have childhood father behaviors? Or childhood mother behavior. I don't know. Is there a childhood mother behavior? Like you only act this way and do this because your moms are disgusting. Absolutely disgusting.
Very much so.
Nah, come on, y'all. We have to do better, y'all. And I don't even know, like, you really don't even know, should I direct my disdain or like disgust to the kid? Or is that a fault of their parent? You know what I mean? Like because but again, to my point, right? What I said earlier is when a teenage dad or a young adult dad becomes a dad and it's, maybe out of context of, them having like, a marital support, it's not like they're not together, whatever, who the kid's mother is, or maybe not have the support of the home or whatever. If that dad becomes absent in that kid's life, we talked about how it could trickle through and affect other relationships in the home, right? Absolutely. But we can see how in this particular story with my daughter, those kids' dad not being present has now trickled into now impacting my kid.
Absolutely.
And her dad is present. And always has been.
Facts.
Look at that. So then what that shows me is what? You know how sometimes we go through our communities and we really have this, like, I think this is like really, really big when it comes to black folks especially. Like we kind of have this really strong, like, mind our business mentality, right? Like people joke all the time, like, Like white folks, they always nosy, or if you hear a bump in the dark, you got to go investigate and see what it is. Black people, we trying to be minding our business. We trying to go over here, or people talk about gunshots happening in their communities or whatever. We don't know nothing. We trying to hurry up.
It's closed.
Yeah, we trying to mind our business. It's a mind your business mentality, and why? Really, so that we could keep ourselves safe. That's where like the mindset comes from. It's an idea that if I mind my business and just worry about me, what's happening in my bubble, I could be safe. But with stories like this and showing where the lines connect and cross, it shows us the value in having a broader care for our community at large. Because what was that little girl in my daughter's classroom? What was that girl's, I don't want to say the word problem, like as if she won't continue to be able to be great and be her best self just because her father's not home. I don't want to say problem. But what's unfortunate for that child to not have her father, that child's unfortunate situation has now become my kids, or vicariously in some way, my business. Because now that child feels a need, whether they're using it, as a defense mechanism or protecting their own emotional well-being. Like, so let me try to flip this in, like how bullies do. They say that about bullies, right? They bully because of sometimes they're being bullied or abused at home. So this kid, because of a lack of something she doesn't have, she flips it and now uses it as, well, I'll just make fun of all the other girls who have a dad.
Facts. It's with Monday being Martin Luther King Day, it reminds me of when Malcolm dies, when Martin dies, what the government does to the black community. It takes the black male out and leaves the child and the mother to defend for themselves. And what does the mother and child do? It goes back to the very source that took the man out and ask for help. That's where you get the Section 8. That's where you get all these welfare, WIC. And what it does is exactly what your daughter and a lot of other young children become part of, seeing the dad. But you are right, it's a defense mechanism for not having their dad in the home.
Yes.
I'm sure all those kids would want their dad in the home if given the opportunity. But because he's not, what other way do you deal with it? You make a joke about it.
Exactly. Because the truth hurts.
Absolutely.
So we people don't want to hurt. That's a very real reality all of us could relate to. Nobody wants to feel like that, feel that pain. So we mask it. And it's not something that we just mask as adults. Kids are trying to figure out how to navigate those same big emotions we have. And that's how they do it. Whether it's the kids that turn into bullies, kids that, now decide to start picking on someone verbally or whatever it is. But if you are, about 10% of our listener base on this platform for our podcast are actually under age 17.
Okay.
So, we got preteens in there mixing there. So just, real quick, if you are a youth, a child yourself, and you have friends who are making fun of you or, decide to make it a point of what you have in your life or at home, whether it's in the way of a mother, a father, to somehow make you feel less than or pick on you, hear this message now. Do not feel sorry for what you have, the love and support you have in your home of a mom or a dad or both. Whoever it is that's loving you and is there for you at home, appreciate that, love that, enjoy that. For me, growing up, it was, I was a teenage parent who also was the product of teenage parents. So my mom was 15 years old, and because she was still doing a lot of growing up herself, and her and my dad broke up when I was born. So she was 15, he was 16. So I didn't have, my dad there in those early developmental years, and my mom was still growing up literally herself, like she was in high school. So I was raised primarily in those early years by grandparents. And that was the love and support I had at home. And thankfully, I don't know, the way kids pick on each other today wasn't so much a thing back then. So I didn't have to deal with that particular dynamic. I think in our community, growing up in inner city New Haven, a lot of us kids, going back home was going back home to a grandma. Because a lot of us was, products of broken, homes or broken families. Friends who had their father was locked up in jail or their mother was, on drugs. So, it was grandma for them. So we kind of had the same thing, and I think that could be, one thing that could, be sort of fortifying in a inner city community is if you guys do in fact share some of the same
Similarities.
struggle, it could be a layer of resilience for you, the kid. Like you could grow up feeling like it's kind of normal to, my dad not to be home versus leaving that bubble, going to another community or another state where everyone has their dad. And it's not until then when you realize, oh, shoot, I might be losing or lacking something. Mm-hmm. You don't really see or feel an experience of like I'm losing or lacking something when everyone around me seems to just also be lacking that. Like it becomes normalized. Like my wife, my wife's a social worker. She uses this term a lot. I hear her say normalized trauma. And it's like, because we're so used to this particular thing in our community, it's like okay, whatever, like it's cool. Yeah. So it's like almost like a double-edged sword. Like on the one hand, it kind of allows for resilience because I'm not letting it be this big, evil, scary thing that impedes my growth or going forward. But then on the other hand, when we don't identify and tend to trauma somewhere deep rooted below, it comes out later down the road or whatever. We don't know why we do or not do some of the things we do, or why we think even some of the things we think, and it all comes somehow back to this normalized.
I would agree with your wife. I'm a social worker myself. So one of the things that I always say is it eventually has to come up to breathe. No matter what type of trauma it is, no matter if it's later on in adulthood or whenever it is. And really you have no control of that. So It's better to identify it when you're young and to get the help that you might need so that it don't come up later.
Now you said you were a young dad. How old were you when you first?
When I had my first child, I was 19.
Same here.
I did come from a broken household. My parents were older. They weren't teens. They were in their mid-20s, which now looking back is still too young to be having kids.
Exactly.
But I tried to do the whole school thing out of high school. But I just found myself never quite meeting the bar. So eventually I went into the military, and that sort of helped me gain some type of traction, but I was still a teen parent.
Yeah.
And I think about I had 4 kids before the age of 25. Looking back on that and reflecting on that, that's just nonsense.
That sounds busy.
Yeah.
Real busy.
Really busy, right?
While you're still young trying to figure out you.
Yeah.
Like, and that's the part I think is probably amongst one of the biggest things that gets put on pause when you become a young parent is
finding yourself.
Finding you gets so delayed. I'd actually argue delayed at best. For some, they never find themselves. Like, because then what, just how with my experience, I became a teenage parent and was a product of teenage parents. So I have teenage parents. Then here I come on the scene. Then I become a teenage parent. And it's almost like you could kind of catch yourself into this, like now, like what, people refer to sometimes as like a generational curse thing, right?
Yeah, because you never really learn the basic things that you need to instill in your children.
Yeah. So then I'm like thinking, okay, how finding yourself could lead to a point where it never even happens is because now if you become now this young parent, then you have kids who then grow up and they follow you. They have young parents. Now, what does that make you now? A young grandparent. And because now you have another,
generation,
big part of your life, like everybody wants to be like super involved grandparent, right? Again, that in some way takes away from you being able to now revisit focusing on you. Or like you could say, hey, now that, I might have been a young parent, but my kids that I did have, they're older now. Now maybe I could pick back up off where I left off on me. But now if you become the young grandparent, now your attention is focused on that because now you're trying to help your young kid be the best parent they could be for your grandkid. So it becomes this, again, a domino effect, a cycle that you can sometimes not even get to. I've been blessed, like I said, delayed at best. I've been blessed to be able to get the delayed part. It might have been delayed, but I got it. I found time to go, all right, I got to start doing some inner work on me. And when I did that, man, wow. Talk about scary. Talk about healing. Like The Beautiful Nightmare is a great description. It's the beautiful nightmare. It's terrifying of an experience to pull back your own layers, to revisit some, of those conversations or voices that are on repeat in your mind and your subconscious, those relationships that may have been fractured or torn in your youth, or and that's really, what I want to even jump into, now it's kind of like, what were those like relational, like those other relationships or settings for you? Like, what was the environment for you? I'm gonna go first, but just to kind of like, so where to think next. Like, what was the environment for you at that time where you found out, I'm about to be a teen dad? I was 19 when I found out I was going to be a dad for the first time myself. I want us to share about like what was like our home environment like, what was the next, community group that we're a part of outside the home, whether it was like school environment, your other friendships around you. So for me, I was living with my mom. I had just the year prior got kicked out of UConn, out of my freshman year of school because, I wasn't doing what I was supposed to be doing in school. Right. And then, so I was like, all right, come back closer to home, go to a closer school near home, living with my mom, and, again, kind of think of as a backdrop, this is my mom who was a teenage parent, right? So, I remember like it was yesterday when moms found out I was having a kid. She was just like heartbroken, and really was just because, I'm sure, she had all of these great plans and ideas in mind for me. She wanted me to, do so much and accomplish so much. And obviously, she was reflecting on her own experience as being a teen mom, like, and just like stuff becomes harder for you. I don't think she believed in me any less. It just was like, I didn't want what was my difficulty to now be yours. And seeing my mom, like I grew up a mama's boy. So seeing my mom just heartbroken, like, it wasn't like she was raining down on me with, fury, pissed off. It was just like, dang, like, I really like kind of just let mom down. Like, and that was enough for me to just, feel sorry, I guess, for that. Because I didn't intend for that to happen to her. But for me, it wasn't like, a mistake, it wasn't like, oops, this happened by accident. Like for me, when I reflect back, I think the reason, somebody might say, wow, that wasn't a mistake for you at 19. Why would you be trying to be like for me, I wanted to start a family, early, or have a family really, I think out of the lack or void that I grew up like having, like, I wanted to be, growing up, as a really, really young man and like not always like waking up to see your mom and dad in the same place, but that it exists for someone and for some kids or other kids somewhere else, and you like look at it from a distance or afar and like desire that.
The Cosby Show.
Yeah, like, but like when you're a kid, right? You have things you look at from afar and desire, but you feel powerless. Like, I can't control two adults. I'm just a kid. So the next thing, if that current trauma or those thoughts that kid is coping with goes untouched, when that kid gets older, i.e. in my case, old enough, I'm 18 plus, I'm able to make my own decisions or do things fairly on my own, that child will simply have those childhood memories almost like haunting them, not to a place where it necessarily, cause them maybe, always mental health or emotional like distraught, but can make them start to like irrationally think even or desire things and go, you know what, since I didn't have it, I want to create that atmosphere though. I will be
what I didn't have.
Exactly. And while that's a good thing to aspire for, right? It's coming from a good place, but poorly planned or thought out timing because it's coming from that broken place, right? So my mom, thankfully she didn't like have this thing where it was, like my life is over, you ruined your life. I didn't have that traumatic thing, but it was traumatic enough for me, like just to see my mom cry or be hurt. But I was determined. That I was going to create for my kid what I didn't have. And so, that was like mom, dad, when he found out, mom kind of used dad as like a bullwhip on me. Like when we,
Mom
were
took
away.
the soft approach.
Yeah, but it was always like I'm gonna call you dad. So, and as I got older, and the more I even studied, mental health, I was like, that's not good, because then now you demonize dad, and then now dad just becomes an image of tyranny and like rebuke, instead of having a loving relationship with your son. So it was like, now dad is like, like it wasn't even like how the last times or other times I got in trouble where it was just like, put you on the phone with your dad. Like, she called this dude over to the house, and now this dude is reaming into me like crazy, like never experienced in my life. So I was dealing with that huge like trauma, like emotionally, like not having you there with me day to day. And then also knowing you were a teenage dad, and the fact that what I felt was like, yo, bro, okay, I might be a teenage dad now too myself, but I did it better than you. At least I finished high school. Yeah. Like, that was my mindset. Like, you was 16, bro. Like, you had to drop out of high school, or you had to, like, you know what I mean? So then those parts of my defenses are coming up, like, okay, I understand, like, didn't want this for me, but you're like going in on me, going crazy, and I'm trying to like defend my stance as this teenage kid, like, yo, but I, at least I finished this, or like I got this now working for me. Mm-hmm. But again, even that mindset, as I look back, was again just coming out of a defense mechanism, like, so in the way of like that kind of emotional, mental support, I didn't really have it from, both my parents on like a singular front. I had it from my mom, from just a place of her not wanting me to feel like giving up on life or my goals or whatever, just because you a parent now, because she had to walk that walk and go, you know what? She couldn't give up because she was a single parent. If she had given up, God knows what would happen that had happened to me. So that was her come from. And I got a lot of support from there. On the home front, like, what was that reality for you? Like, for your at least immediate family?
For me, like I said before, I come from a broken household. Parents were married, divorced. So when I came to my parents with the
news,
the reality that I was going to be a teen dad, I remember my dad, first thing that he said is, you don't got to be with her. Which sort of, looking back on it,
wow,
it was sort of...
Was that his like initial response?
Yeah.
That was like his first...
That's the first thing he said. And now looking back on it, having
wow.
the education that I do, I understand it was just him reflecting back on his own life and having that regret and trying to correct his own
Yeah.
misfortunes in his own life and
Yeah.
giving me the same advice.
Yeah.
But as a hard-headed kid, what did I do? I did just the opposite. And that's how I
Okay.
ended up with the 3 other kids
Yeah.
by just doing the opposite. My mom, on the other half, I think mom sort of had that loving nature
Yeah. Yeah.
by nature, but even her, she still tried to guide me down the path, maybe not so harshly as my dad did, but
Yeah.
still try to give me the advice. This doesn't have to be the end all of
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
end alls.
And this was prior to the military?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I had 3 kids prior to even going into the military.
Oh, okay. I thought this was
No,
like
so
what?
I was a freshman in college, same as you,
Yep.
wilding out. On the other half, I don't think my first child was planned. To be honest with you,
Yeah.
none of my kids were planned until this last one.
Okay.
The last one has been recently. I've had a chance to grow up in my life.
Yeah.
So being able to see the beauty of being a father when you're ready and when you're not ready are 2 totally
Yeah.
different spectrums. But going back to the original thing, for me, like I said before, it was more just them, both my parents, trying to guide me so I didn't make the same mistakes that they made.
Yeah.
And not that children are mistakes, but they
Yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
impact your life in
Yeah,
such
yeah,
a way
yeah, yeah.
where you're not able to find your true identity. You're not able
Yeah.
to travel. You're not able to do all those things that eventually make you a great parent.
Yes, yes. I mean, and it's really like that. It's the blessing that children are. It's the blessing that, if placed or experienced out of timing,
Absolutely.
becomes that becomes the like the hurdle to cross. Like so again, adults or young kids alike. Anybody who's hearing this, please don't get it misunderstood to have an idea or think the messages that like children or having children are mistakes. That couldn't be the furthest thing from the truth. What it I like to think of it maybe as like let's say how you feed a baby, right? Like they start off with milk, okay? But what would happen if you gave or tried to give that newborn a steak? You know what I mean? Like the steak, there's so much nutrients and great things in steak, right? But it would be a blessing out of timing that child doesn't have the teeth, the digestive system to actually take advantage and experience the blessing that steak could be or provide for them.
Absolutely.
It's the same with our children, right? A blessing such as them out of timing, unlike the difference with, the steak or food analogy, is that steak or food options don't have feelings, right? So, okay, so what if I can't necessarily have the teeth to chew properly on the steak or the food item, then only I lose out. But when you're dealing with another human being like a child, if you're out of timing as the parent, it's not only you who lose out, but that also that child becomes harmed. It's, there's something happening as a detriment to both individuals. And I think that's what is really like the sobering thought, right? Because people, whether you're a young teenager out there or a young adult, your 20 somethings out there who, just even think like me or how I thought was like, no, I'm gonna do this because this is what I want, and I'm gonna be a better mother than my mother. I'm gonna be a better father than my father. Like, okay, that's all great things that you're gonna be the greatest. But slow down a bit, and consider that analogy. Consider that point. Is that something out of timing though, while you're still in self-discovery, while you're still refining you. To your point, young person who is bent on being the best parent you could be, refining you first is only going to exponentially make you and see to it that you're the best parent you could be.
Definitely. It's the best thing that you can do for yourself.
Is love yourself. Wow.
Yes.
And the best thing you could do for someone else is love yourself.
Facts.
Yo, it's amazing. It's beautiful. So, for y'all who don't know, my man David and I, we crossed paths, working with some other people heavy in the community in our local area. And I heard about David because of a Teen Fathers program that he's involved with, and me being a teen father, parent, product of a teen father, obviously, you guys know I had to jump to an opportunity to like work with them or, this organization to some degree. So I'm excited about that. But I really wanted to spend time really just like setting the stage for transparency and vulnerability. You know how it is, y'all. When we coming up in the inner city, or if you're just like a person who's like me, let me just relegate it to that, because I could be speaking just to myself about myself. Let me not assume. But if you're somebody like me, anytime you get approached with some kind of program or something, and David know what I'm talking about in the community, like we have this kind of, like stereotype or like
That stigma.
this stigma, like when it comes to like programs, y'all, we put the quotes on there, or people in the community. It's something like sticky. I don't really know where that comes from. I'm sure my man David does, because he's gone to school for these things and studied some of these things about why they exist in our culture, these mindsets. But I know what I do know, right, to the point why I bring that up, is I always know, for me, what has been the thing that breaks that up. And what's always broken it up is if I could be face to face with someone who could be authentic, be transparent, and be vulnerable with me in a moment, in a setting, in an environment, whatever it is. So I'm not looking for the bow tie, sharp blazer, gentleman with the shiny tip toe shoes, to come to their office always and have a sit down. Or who approaches me like that on the street. I'm more inclined to, be receptive to somebody who, maybe I see in passing at the same grocery store I go to, or the school that I'm at, or, just in the community, whether it's your local church or whatever it is. And now with the digital age we live in of social media, now social media platforms become another one of those places. Right. It's like a bus stop. It's like a passing plane. So for those of you who come across maybe hearing this episode, whether it's on the podcast platform, whether it's on the Facebook, the Instagram, the TikTok, or whatever, I want you to see the authentic David Free, the transparent, the vulnerable David Free, and the people that we connect with and also partner with in this community or with this program that David is going to share about in a few. There are other people just like us who are courageous enough, daring enough to dare to be authentic, be transparent, and really just share pieces of our story or realities that come with that, so that we could help other people in our community.
Dare to be different.
Dare to be different. So with that said, tell the people just a little bit about the Teen Fathers program that you're a part of.
So the Teen Fathers program originates out of GBAP, which is the Greater Bridgeport Area Prevention Program, which is a community-based organization that has been in the Bridgeport area since the 70s. We've done a lot of different things, but as far as the Teen Fathers program, historically we've been involved in all of the high schools. We deal with teenage fathers up to the age of 24. So that historically that's included night schools, all of the high schools. But recently, our CEO, which is a woman, Nancy Kingwood, had the ideal to expand that program into the community, because we know that once teen fathers graduate high school, I mean, their problems don't go away.
Yeah, if they graduate high school.
If they graduate, no doubt.
Exactly. So it's like, you know, again, I you know, I was, you know, at least I was blessed to be out of high school when it was me as a young teen parent. But you know, the reality was I still had to drop out of college. You know, I got kicked out the first time. You know, the first year, came back, moved closer to home, went to the college closer to home, and then after a semester or a couple of semesters, you know, at that school, became a parent, and now it was like, now I got to hit the ground running.
Yeah,
because now I gotta feed and provide and figure out how I'm gonna take care of this human that I just created. So I gotta work. So for me, that was more of the reality to like cope with.
So that's the beauty of our program, and that's the basis of our program. We try to take young men who might already be struggling with just being a young man, and now you add the father portion onto it. How do they really juggle all those things and still be successful themselves? Because at the end of the day, being a man isn't defined. We choose what our definition is. Based upon our own struggle, based upon our religion, our spirituality, whatever you want to use and throw it in. That's what manhood is based upon. And this program tries to take each individual where they are and help them conquer and build the skills needed to live out their explanation of manhood.
Yeah. And just like, and then stay true to it. Like, and you know, commit to it. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's, that's kind of like just like the one like phase, like it's to come up, what's this going to be defined for me? And then will I rise to the occasion and be that, live that out.
And what we've realized is that the more that these young men have people around them, such as us, who can mentor them, who can be a guide, the more successful that they are.
Facts.
And that's where this program really originates from, the idea of being able to give back. And being able to pull another teen dad who might otherwise go underneath the radar, the radar.
Yeah.
So
that's fire, man. It's something that I hope to be able to, bring or, rally up a lot more. One, just mentors, or get the word out much more in even like the greater New Haven area. So even it being GBAP being a kind of a greater Bridgeport area initiative, you guys are not against working with or helping kids from the New Haven area.
Nah, if there's a dad who needs help, definitely reach out.
They could reach out,
and we'll definitely see how we can work together to touch that dad. Because it doesn't matter if he's in New Haven, Bridgeport, Norwalk, wherever it is, the need is still there.
The need is
we're there to help bring the need.
And I think it's important to like see like that's what I enjoy again about a program, at least willing to be that
transparent.
Transparent, that utilize, flexible, is because again, it's the reality that we mentioned about like with the story with my daughter, is that listen, we could just stay in this pocket over here and be like, hey, we just worry about us. But you know what? As long as that reality is still not being addressed or found support into your surrounding area, eventually it crosses paths with
no doubt
with your community, wherever you are. It crosses path in your home. So we try as like, again, as our defense mechanism or as a way to keep ourselves safe, whether it's our home or our own community, right? But if it's a need, or if it's a lack or a void somewhere, just even in close proximity to us, it impacts all of us. And being able to catch that revelation, I think, is the thing that raises up other, men, fathers like us, or any, other type of advocates in the community, they see the bigger picture at large. It's like, this may not be my home reality or what my household might be like struggled with, but it's my daughter's friend's household struggle.
Definitely.
And it's trickling, somehow it impacts us
community.
all. What matters most to me, it impacts it. So that's super dope, man. One of the things that I saw when, before I hit that, I think one of the other things that really was big for me when I was being like brave enough in like kind of like my post first kid now era, one of the things that was like brave for me to do, and took me a long time to do and get myself to that place, was trying to discover what was the things that like hurt me as the kid before I was ever a teen dad, right? Like, because I wanted, again, if the goal is for me to be the best dad I can be, or be more or greater of a dad than like, whatever dad I had or whatever, right? Some part of that I got, this wisdom or this idea that it was going to require me going back into my memory, back into some of those deep rooted maybe like feelings or hurt or whatever that is that I felt, and kind of like really breaking those things down and analyzing them. And one that was like really, really just like scary and like, really painful was having like experiences as a young boy, like, elementary, middle school, where I was either, if I was, picked on, or if I was just afraid in my community, being outside or hearing of dangerous things happening or around, not having like that kind of big, protector or male figure there every day. And really, it really, it really hurt then as a child, and as a young man, much, younger than I am now, when I was now that young man turned parent, I found a lot of what I was like focusing on, what was my drive coming from, was just about, I'm gonna be better. And I guess another way of like kind of saying that is kind of like almost like revenge, but like indirect revenge. Like it's kind of like your way of getting back at the antagonist called your trauma. Like, because the antagonist, it doesn't have like a person's name per se, right? But it's like, because I have this painful feeling back here in my past, here's how I'm going to get revenge on it, or like get back at it. And so I'm going to just do better, be better. But that's only short lived. That lasts is like
a short way to not deal with what you really need to deal with.
Yes. So I remember, I recount this like time of like, being this teen dad, and I had a moment with my oldest daughter, I want to say. So it was the kid that I had when I was a teenager. And I had, again, my whole mindset, like, just I'm going to be better. I'm going to be doing this, because my dad didn't do this with me. And I got this revelation that, you know what? Maybe it's not about being the dad I wanted when I was a kid. Maybe it's about being the dad they need right now. Because the dad I wanted might not be the dad she needs. And as long as I'm not just tending to my just broken void parts of me, that's going to be the only vein and strain in which I pursue my even idea of good parenting or being a good dad. Is all going to be filtered through what I would have wanted when I was a boy. When I was coming up, I would have wanted my dad to do this. So you know what? I'm gonna do a whole lot of that with my daughter, and it could be all for naught because she's like, well, you know what? I need a dad that just spends time to talk with me, Dad. And,
Yeah, it's
and
like
now you're taking me to
parents who,
baseball games
buy
every
their
week
kids everything because that's what they would have wanted for their kid or
for themselves. Exactly. So I had to really, really like swallow that, check that, take another turn. Let me go in a different direction and explore that. But again, doing that really deep self-analysis and like pondering those things is how those things came out. And I think that's what we are able to offer one another. If you're in a place yourself right now where you're a teen or young dad, you're a 20-something dad, the Teen Fathers program through GBAP in particular is for, young dads 24 or younger. So if you're, a teenager in high school like my parents were, or you're like David and I, you're a freshman in college or, further along in college, 24 and under, we could see, one, us being able to be transparent and have, if you're not great, maybe at that own like self-analysis, right? But to David's point he mentioned earlier, when we're able to come together with other people who either have experienced this, who are seeking to just give or convey support for you while you're experiencing your own unique home experience, your own unique friendships experience that are changing. Like that was another thing, man. I felt like, I don't know if this was for you, but I never was the kid that grew up having a ton of whole friends anyway. But the few that I had, I was the first one to have a kid. And so while they were still all about, first of all, while they were still just finishing their college degree, so they were busy with that, number one. And then when they're not doing school, they're still enjoying life being young. Whether it was trips or, we going here, or I'm just hearing about it through the grapevine because I'm definitely not getting the invites, but I'm hearing about my other friends or, people my age doing this, and my life has grossly changed in a huge way. That was another layer of just mental and emotional, just weight, that kind of made me feel but thanks for my mom always cheering me on, but had me always wrestling with the thought, I've really ruined my life. And life is where do I find joy from when everyone else gets to do this? And my whole day itinerary is making sure I'm getting up on time for work, do this job that I hate, do these 2 jobs that I hate. At one point, I was working 3 jobs that I hate, all so I can make sure I got the money I need, the baby food formula that this baby needs.
Diapers ain't cheap.
Bro, what was that? Did you have to experience that, or
I actually
with friends or?
Facts. I had a friend who lived at home with his parents till he was 27. Got a master's degree.
Was able to just focus on him.
Didn't even have a kid till he was 32.
Wow.
But at the same time, my grandmother used to always say, wherever there is tragedy, and not that kids are tragedies,
yeah,
but that what comes after the sacrifice of working the 3 jobs, getting up at 2:00 in the morning to change a diaper. Those are all things that my friends didn't have to deal with, but that also made me a stronger man looking down the road.
Yeah.
And it also pushed me into the military, somewhere that I might not have gone without the need to be able to take care of my children.
Yeah. I was this close to joining the military. I mean, for some people, and some people might have a bad military experience. I assume you had a good one, or at least somewhat, a good one. But I know the military was one of my options that was on the table. It was I had got fired from one of my jobs, and it was I gotta find not only a better job, but a job that's gonna pay me more money, and I couldn't find one. I was applying to tons and tons of jobs. I remember I kept a running list of the jobs that I applied for, and I applied. I was, here I am. I'm now at this point, I'm 20 years old. or no, yeah, I was 20 years old, and I applied to like 62 jobs, bro, and couldn't even get a call back. And mind you, so here I am, I'm this college kid, or at least like, I dropped out of college, but like I got at least 1 year of college under my belt. Excellent high school, record, whatever. Never been in no trouble. 20 years old, young, strong, bright, you know what I mean? And I couldn't even get a call back from McDonald's, bro. And I am like, this is my reality. Like, I didn't know this could get this real. Like, I think, again, it's like sometimes that invincible, like, nature, like, you could have as a young man, and you just feel like, yo, man, if this happened, like, I'm gonna easily be able to like handle that. I'm just get me a job, like
bounce back, they call it.
Yeah, you know what I mean. I got fired. I was like, all right, you know what I'm saying. Just get me, and it was like, yo, I cannot get a call back. So back to like the military. So now it was like, yo, if ain't nobody hiring out here, Uncle Sam always hiring, And I'm like, like I said, I knew I had the intelligence. I was strong. And I remember going, to the, the recruiting office downtown right here in New Haven. And, I took the, whatever the, like, test you take. What do they call that test?
The ASVAB.
Yeah. And it was where I guess like they do the thing where you could, when you take the test, whatever number or score you get tells you what
jobs.
Yeah, like the jobs you can have. So I got like this long list of options for me, they was really excited about all of that. And I remember the day before I was supposed to go down and sign the paper, I had the UI company call me for a temp job. And I was getting paid like $18 an hour, back then. Like, so that was like, what? I ain't never made that much money, like, ever. So, that was like a breath of like fresh air, at least. But it was a wake-up call too, because I spent even like a week trying to get day labor work. Like, and for any of you who don't know what day labor is, it's like when you get up at pre the butt crack of dawn, like pre that, you have to beat the sun, because if you don't, you're late. Like 3 a.m., bro, standing in the line with a bunch of like homeless people who are just like looking to get picked or taken for the day on a construction site job to just get some money paid for the day. It's little like odd work like that, whether a construction company wants you to, do some light painting or, putting down floors or, swinging a hammer, whatever it is. It's little simple stuff, not really nothing major. But you get paid oftentimes in cash
under the table.
For the day. That's day labor. And so here I am, 20-year-old, young, bright, strong young man, standing in line, trying to make a buck, figure out how I'm gonna feed this kid, and wasn't able to even get that, man. It was just like, yo, what gives? Like, are you kidding me right now? And like it's programs like this, things like, where I wish I could have had like tapped in to someone else who like wasn't alone. And this would like to be like, you're like, you're not this.
Me too.
You're not as unique as you think. Like, you know what I mean? Like you're not being singled out by the universe, and you're the only young dad who can't find a job. Like, you start feeling like that sometimes. Like, it's just me. All the moons and stars are pointed at me not allowing me to get this job. And it's like, nah, man, other dudes struggling not to find a job, being able to take care of their kid, whether it's, maybe that's the reality, or struggling with not finding at least the emotional support from family. All of that. And I think the biggest thing, now that I reflect, and like, many of our family members have been able to have some of those harder conversations, namely, obviously, my mom, my dad. You find that, at least when it comes to your family, a lot of times the lack of support that you might have felt really just came from like a bunch of family members being afraid for me. Like, not even so much like, you know, like they couldn't like they didn't love kids or like kids or didn't even like the idea of like that I would one day have a kid. It was just like, yo, we were afraid for you because we knew the hardships it brought us.
For me, it was they didn't even know how to have the conversation. I didn't even know how to necessarily start that conversation.
The dialogue, yeah.
So there wasn't programs such as this one when I was growing up. This is the first of, I think this program been around since the early 2000s, but it hasn't necessarily been in the communities. It's been isolated just in the schools.
Yeah.
So being able to expand it to the communities, to me, is dope.
Yeah, because again, that the reality of anybody who's actually lived this experience, you know, that teenage dad or that, you know, 20-something, you know, college dad doesn't always get to stay at the school.
If
you know, they might be out of the school now. Maybe they're doing, you know, distance learning, hopefully, you know, keeping up on their education or whatever. But, you know, having these resources or programs be, you know, isolated to just inside the school walls or school system, when a bunch of these dads like me, 20-something, you know, year old me, I had to drop out of college, you know, out of school. So even if the college did bring programs like that, I wouldn't have knew about it.
Thanks.
I would have needed the Young Fathers program or something to catch me at the day labor line. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? See me standing in line, like, you know, walk by me or something. Notice that I look way too young to be in this line with all these other old men. Like, yo, you know, what's good with you? Like, you know, so that's, you know, a lot of at least the groundwork, at least rubbing shoulders with the community, I hope to do as we continue to, like, you know, collaborate and brainstorm ways in which to bring this more to light in the community itself, instead of just in, you know, the four walls of different spaces that are all still great spaces. Absolutely. You know, to still continue that. You know, shout out to, you know, any of the, you know, the high schools or, you know, guidance counselors, the colleges, universities, the community colleges, the places that invite and welcome, you know, resources and, you know, individuals like David to come in and speak and share this. Really, really big up, shout out to that. If there are administrators, guidance counselors, other key, you know, stakeholders or figures in the community in some of these organized places like the colleges, high schools, or local churches that want to connect with you, is there a way, like a number that they can reach you, website information? What's the best way for them to go about that?
So if you're gonna reach out, email is dcolbert, COLBERT @gbap.org. Or you can hit my office number, 203-409-5662. Awesome. And shout out to one of the other, you know, individuals at GBAP that works with you, at least have, you know, connected with me with the Teen Fathers program. Again, guys, keep in mind, this is, you know, a resource and a program that is for any young fathers 24 and under. So I don't want the teen fathers, like, kind of like label or title to kind of, you know, feel like if you're not a teenager, this is not for you, or, you know, we're not here to be a support for you. It includes you as well, 24 and under, again. But one of the other individuals, Jackie, shout out to Jackie. She couldn't be here with us today, you know, so big up to Jackie. She had gave me a number, a main office number also that we could drop. So again, along with David's email that he just mentioned, and all of this will be in the description of this episode for you guys to just, you know, see quickly. But the main office number, 203-366-8255. The Teen Fathers Program, GBAP, Greater Bridgeport, New Haven, wherever you are, man, we really want to do our best to, you know, connect. David and his team wants to do his best to connect the best we can. And really, if nothing else, to just really be a mentor support, if nothing else. Like maybe, you know, I don't know, you know, you're way on the outskirts, or, you know, far, you know, you're nowhere near the Greater New Haven or Greater Bridgeport area, whatever. Heck, maybe you
in a whole entire different state. You heard his email. It might be something as simple as like helping you, brainstorm or cope with like the idea of how could this even be possible, or you could be a successful parent at this stage in your life. Because I know a lot of just even organizations and programs that I've worked with acutely or just in a certain area. A lot of times that from state to states or other places, there's some comparable other program that either offers something similar or at least the mentor emotional support that's there. And again, it's just like, it's really dope to just even hear the podcast, which is why I'm great. David agreed to come and do this show with me. A lot of times we like really undermine or like really like undervalue how impactful and great like these social media platforms can be for things that are really worthwhile in the community. Like people are instantly, they want to sell, jewelry they making. They think of going to like social media for that, but don't think the same social media could be really, really great and impactful for something like a Teen Fathers program in the community. Like it could be just as equally great as a platform. So we're hoping that, again, close or far, far away, at least, if nothing else, this podcast episode that you heard right now, hearing two young fathers who have now grown now, actually grown, not just think we grown back when we was teen, like who actually have grown up, persevered, pressed through. Hopefully you hearing just this episode is a layer of intervention for you. Hopefully we could have this episode itself act as a form of intervention for you, something to inspire you, something to encourage you to keep pressing in. If you never email David, if you never call the number, if you never hit me in the DMs, I'm working closely with my man David in the next coming weeks to get as many people aware of this program in the community as we can. So if you're hearing this, if you're seeing a snip of this, whatever it is, reach out to David, hit the phone number, hit me in the DMs, whatever it is, we here. And I'm going to let my man David in with the last word. So for free lunch, it's a double entendre to really mean something edifying for the soul. So my name is Free. So that's where we get the word free from. Free lunch is our tagline for the show is free food for your soul. Okay. So we end each episode, or try to, with leaving the people with something that's edifying for their soul, like food is for the body. So we call it free lunch. Okay. So it's the Free Lunch Podcast. And I'm going to let my man David leave the people, the audience, with something that he wants them to have, to take into the rest of their day, their week, that's edifying for the soul.
I would just say be greater. Make an attempt to be greater. No matter what that is, be greater. Be the best that you can be. And that's really as simple as it gets. Sometimes we overdo things. And it's really at the base ground, we got to do better as individuals, as communities, as people who come for the people. For the people, we just got to do better.
Yeah.
That's it.
Do better, man. Real simplified for my man, yo. I could already see he like a straight arrow with it, man. He cut through all the nonsense, y'all. Just be greater. Be greater, be better. Be better. Take it one day at a time. Wow. I need that.
And if you can't do it at a time, do it at an hour. If you can't do it at an hour, do it at a minute. Not a minute, a second. A second, a moment.
All right. See, David gonna make me cut his mic, y'all.
it.
David trying to drop extra bars now. You got to spoon feed him, David. Yo, no, to that point, man, do it. Break it down. Break it down into small pieces if you can't. If you can't do it by the day, that could be overwhelming. Yeah, man. I like that. For me, I think a little bit, I guess, along the same lines as what David just shared. And I had to just be reminded to do this today. We could become very overwhelmed with to-do list. We could be very overwhelmed with a to-do list. And what makes to-do list overwhelming is because based on whatever might be happening in your day or abruptly entering your day, your to-do list can be left very long. And if you're a person like me who used to have rolling to-do list, where if I didn't get everything done in my today's do
Go
list,
to the next day.
it became part of tomorrow's to-do list. And now every time you seek to do better, you have this long, overwhelming list before your eyes. So this is what I started to implement just last week, is my done list. So the to-do list exists, but it's not the thing that I'm meditating on. What I am now focusing my thoughts, my attention, my energy on is what David just shared, is doing better, whether it's by the second, the minute, the hour, and ultimately the day. I'm focusing on my running list of what got done. Because seeing at least something I got done, whether if it's just one thing, it made it to the done list. It got done. I could celebrate in that thing what I accomplished. And many times we can get overwhelmed and bogged down by what's left, what I haven't done, who I'm not, what I still have left to do. And I think it's a concept that, personal trainers, people who are in fitness, coaches, they always encourage their clients to focus on. Focus on the gains. Oh, but my goal is to lose 100 pounds and I only lost 4. Okay, you gonna keep overwhelming yourself with the other 96 pounds you gotta lose, or are you gonna celebrate the 4 pounds?
Facts.
Yo, let's focus on the done list. Yo, it's free lunch, freestyle gospel, aka the real free. It's free food for your soul, y'all. Peace.